Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna talk about another terrible fucking case, as if I had to announce that to you. Man accused of sex trafficking daughter's friends allegedly was in bed with one of his victims when he was arrested. Lawrence Ray is accused of manipulating his daughter's circle of friends, starting when he moved into her dorm at Sarah Lawrence College. There's a lot to process here, admittedly. The fact that he moved into her dorm in and of itself is extremely bizarre to me. Now, the dorms at UC Irvine, the only dorms I've ever been in, thank God, were minuscule, so I don't know how an extra person would be able to fit. I was in a single room that was the size of a shoebox. My mother cried when she saw that room because literally if you opened the door, you wouldn't be able to open drawers in the closet. And if I had my suitcase open on the floor to unpack, I couldn't open either my door or my closet. That's how small it was. So the concept of someone moving in and it not being immediately suspicious, I have so many questions. The father of a former Sarah Lawrence College student is accused of making almost $2 million in just 2 years by forcing one of his daughter's friends into prostitution and then reaping the financial benefits of the sexual trysts, according to federal prosecutors. Prosecutors revealed new details of the case against 60-year-old Lawrence Ray Monday at a bail hearing in Manhattan federal court, according to the New York Post. Ray allegedly kept detailed records of profits he made from forcing the unidentified woman into prostitution. She allegedly handed over $700,000 in 2017 and more than $1 million in 2018, federal prosecutors said. We've seen a lot of criminals that seem to not be very bothered by their crimes in terms of guilt and whatever moral standards they have, or in this case, lack. But to me, it's always insane when I see a parent being close to their child. So he moved into his daughter's dorm, so he was close to his daughter. And to take one of her friends or someone who could be her friend or someone at an equivalent age and force them into something like that, the cognitive dissonance is insane. It would be like me deciding to live with my mom and then deciding to take advantage in some way of someone who's my mom's age and could be her friend. Like, how do you separate the fact of this is someone else's daughter and somebody could do this to my daughter? I don't even know why at this point I try to understand criminals, because it's really just not gonna happen. The money was allegedly given to female associates of the 60-year-old Ray and then deposited into bank accounts where he had access to the funds, prosecutors said. Ray is facing charges of extortion, sex trafficking, and forced labor after federal prosecutors said he used physical and psychological threats and coercion to indoctrinate and exploit his daughter's college roommates after moving in with them in a scheme that went on for years, according to a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Ray allegedly used tactics such as sleep deprivation, psychological and sexual humiliation, physical violence, and verbal abuse to isolate his alleged victims and gain control over them by forcing them to make false confessions about supposed damages they owed to him and his family. Ugh, this is so gross. I feel gross reading this. I wonder how aware the daughter was, if at all, but if she was part of it, maybe she was also being abused or threatened in case she said something, because it seems hard to me that they would all be living in the same room and she wouldn't notice that her roommates might be acting weird or different, or that they're going out at weird hours, or that her father's talking to them. It's hard for me to believe that she was in the dark, but it wouldn't surprise me if he had threatened her or lied to her in some way or manipulated her. His tactics really underline how heinous all of this was, though, with the sleep deprivation, psychological and sexual humiliation, violence, verbal abuse. All of it is so disgusting. And when I was in college, I took a course that was focusing on terrorism, and one of our professors had actually gone to war-torn countries as a reporter, an embedded journalist. Anyway, this doesn't fall under the exact definition of terrorism, because terrorism is usually in the pursuit of political aims, but it does feel like these tactics remind me of some of the tactics that were discussed in that terrorism course that the military would use by putting people in pressure positions and stuff like that. And though some of this was mental, a lot of it was physical, and the idea of isolating someone, it makes me think of terrorism. I don't know why. Maybe I'm completely off base. You guys can let me know, but all of these tactics are so premeditated and disgusting, and I think maybe that's why I think of it, because it almost seems like he has like a little booklet he opens and he's like, okay, so what are we doing today to make this person feel unsafe or feel like they have to do everything I say? Maybe I'm projecting. Ray is accused of then using these taped confessions to extort the students, forcing them to repay the supposed debts by draining their parents' savings accounts, draining lines of credits, or carrying out forced labor, according to the statement. In court Monday, Assistant U.S. Attorney Danielle Sassoon said that when authorities arrested Ray, he had been in bed with a woman who he was the guardian of and who he claimed had been like a daughter to him, the Rockland Westchester Journal-News reports. The unidentified woman had once been his daughter's roommate. This might also be a reach, and you can let me know, but it really fucking creeps me out that he would have some kind of sexual relationship, if she consented, which we don't even know, with someone who is like a daughter to him. And the fact that she'd been his daughter's roommates, some of this to me, I think Freud would have a great time with, because the fact that he's moving in with his daughter and making these women who in a lot of ways are similar to her in that they're in the same, in a way, trajectory, in the sense that they're in university, they're probably in the same year, they're doing similar things, they're similar in age. That hits me as really fucking weird, because it makes me just think that he's looking to do this with his daughter, but he doesn't want to do it with his daughter, so he's taken with people who are as close to his daughter as possible. Does that make sense? Am I just losing my entire shit here? Because this just is sending off my creepy alarms. It really is. Prosecutors believe Ray, who once served as the best man in former NYPD Commissioner Bernie Kerrick's wedding, sexually groomed the woman by filming her having sex with other men and using verbal and physical abuse to gain control. One video obtained by prosecutors allegedly showed Ray verbally berating the woman as she sobbed, while another showed him grabbing her by the hair and forcing her out of the house, prosecutors said. He belittled and humiliated them. He broke their spirits, Sassoon said, according to the New York Daily News. A second woman was also at the home at the time of Ray's arrest, according to the prosecutors. There were other victims still very much under his control at the time of his arrest, Sassoon said in court. Okay, so like I suspected, it doesn't really seem like there was consent, considering that it sounds like he just manipulated most of these young women into doing things, whether it was sexually with him or otherwise. The investigation into Ray's alleged behavior began after a New York Magazine article was published last spring. Assistant Federal Defender Marnie Lennox called the magazine's report false and salacious and questioned the credibility of some of the students involved in the case, saying the female sex worker was a drug abuser with serious mental health issues and describing one of the males in the case as a storyteller by trade, according to the Rockland Westchester Journal-News. She said that man has already sold his memoir about the case to a publisher. Mr. Ray has every intention of telling his story, she said, adding that he planned to fight the charges against him. Lennox had advocated that Ray be released on a $100,000 bond and confined to his home through electronic monitoring, arguing that he was not a threat to the public or a flight risk. However, U.S. Magistrate Judge Kevin Fox denied bail and ordered Ray to remain in custody at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. I don't know what Lennox is on. I really wouldn't categorize Ray as not dangerous, considering he was physically and mentally abusing, threatening, harassing. I mean, so many different levels of disgusting behavior, and I don't know how you could count that as not dangerous, especially if he's being predatory towards young women that he can find a way to manipulate by threatening them with the footage he has of them. I don't know why you would want someone like that running about. Like, he might not be running around murdering people, but surely he shouldn't just be out in public, especially if he has access to universities where he can take advantage of more women. So very questionable that Lennox just doesn't really seem to understand what's at stake here. So, sorry, it's future me. I apologize if you can hear noise in the background, but it's the evening now, and so there are all types of noise. But while I was looking more into this case of Lawrence Ray, I found another article by the New York Post, and it's about a year old, and it actually addresses a lot of points where I was confused. So here it says that he was running a NXIVM-like cult, and if you don't know about NXIVM, I made a whole video about that, and I'll link it down below, but that's very concerning. At Sarah Lawrence College, brainwashing his daughter and her friends into following his so-called teachings while taking advantage of them sexually and emotionally. Slowly, he wrapped the kids up in his web, convincing them to undergo pseudo-therapy sessions with him and divulge their deepest childhood traumas, according to the article. Any trivial mistake like scratching a pan to Ray was proof that the kids were trying to sabotage him and led to cruel punishments. One student, Daniel Barbin Levin, said Ray forced him to wear a necklace made out of aluminum foil balls around his testicles and once threatened to dismember him with a knife. Levin, who felt unsure about his sexuality, said he was once forced to wear a dress and penetrate himself with a dildo in front of his housemates, who laughed. he moved out in 2013. The middle-aged man allegedly manipulated some of the co-eds into having sex with him, sometimes in groups. The article also says that many of the students attempted suicide, but police told their worried parents nothing could be done since they were adults. Then it says, Ray firmly believes he and his followers have been poisoned by Carrick agents, but wouldn't delve into specifics. Through his lawyer, Glenn Ripa, he denied almost every allegation in the article, but in conversation, he admitted taking cash from at least one of the women. My intentions are honorable intentions, he said. As much as this doesn't change what he did, I think the context is interesting because I initially did not think it was culty at all. I really thought he was working as a kind of pimp who obviously did not have people who consented to work with him. But I genuinely find this even more concerning. Let me know if you guys would like me to delve further into this, because it seems like every article is only giving us a drop of the full story. The thing that hits me always about cases like this is the fact that they're not happening in the dark, in the sense of a lot of the times we think about crimes happening in like some dark alley or some underground fucking bunker or something. But all of this stuff was happening in a dorm, which I suppose hits close to home for me because I was in a dorm. I guess there's a weird sensation of security when someone's just across the hall from you and there aren't that many of you in the dorm to begin with. And so it feels like you know what's going on around you, whereas that might not be the case. And you know, when I was in a dorm, the maximum I thought was going on is that so-and-so was sleeping with so-and-so and this other person was having drama with that person, but that's all silly, petty bullshit. But to think that the person across the hall might be dealing with some kind of trafficking like this is scary and also surreal. So I'm just glad he got caught. I hope that all the victims of his are getting therapy, the help they need, whatever, because I can't even imagine, especially going to school at the same time pretending you're fine with all this shit going on. I can't imagine. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this. Let me know how long you think this guy deserves to be in prison. Let me know if you agree with the fact that he should just be let out on bail and just monitored at home. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.